Hi, I'm Dan Kahn, and welcome to a special Independence Day episode of Fast News from Kahn Media. We have a lot of great content and info for you this week, including an excellent in-depth story from our KM 101 series on social media customer service, and a deep dive into the current state of the luxury goods market that I think you'll find fascinating. We'll also tackle the latest business news, including updates on the current health of the automotive aftermarket, a look at the motorcycle market, updates on the PPP, tips on starting a business in a downturn, and a lot more. But first, a quick comment before we dive in. I'm an entrepreneur. I started my business 12 years ago and have been riding the ups and downs of small business ownership ever since. I'm also fortunate that I get to work with other entrepreneurs every day. And to be honest, it's what I love about my job. I've learned that all entrepreneurs, from founders of startups to the leaders of billion-dollar companies, all have something in common. We are, by nature, an optimistic bunch. We're also a little masochistic. You have to be. Anyone willing to spend long hours, nights, and weekends grinding away, trying to turn the spark of an idea into a business, anyone who's willing to sacrifice family time, personal time, and all too often their health and their savings to build a business, you have to be an optimist at your core. We do it because we're passionate about a product or a market. We do it because we oftentimes can't work for anyone else. But we all do this because we think deep down inside that we can make something succeed where others couldn't. So with that in mind, that's why we will keep making these Fast News videos as long as you're willing to watch them. And it's why we will stay focused on the positive. Tips, ideas, developing stories, and in-depth conversations that will help you build your business. When the mainstream news is busy reporting about plagues and death and violence, we're going to stay focused on business news with a positive bent. Because at the end of the day, we think people want to succeed, and we want to help. Okay, editorial over. With that out of the way, let's get to the news. First up, we have another great story in our KM 101 series of articles that teaches the basics of marketing, public relations, digital communication, and more. This week's piece by our own Abby Beckert is called The 7 Golden Rules of Social Media Customer Service. And to be honest, guys, this is a really great story. Anyone in sales knows that you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. Dealing with disgruntled customers is a challenge for every business. On social media, where small incidents can quickly escalate and even go viral, customer service can be a minefield, and it's a very public venue where a lot of people can see what's happening. Since the social space is transparent and literally everyone has a voice, it's even more critical that businesses tackle every customer interaction, the good, the bad, and the ugly, quickly, consistently, and with compassion. Sometimes that's easier said than done. So with that in mind, here are the 7 golden rules to social media customer service. 1, great customer service starts with listening. People are talking about your brand whether you like it or not, so you're better off keeping your ear to the ground. Google alerts, Yelp, Amazon reviews, and more not only let you read comments, but respond to them. And honestly, you should. 2, respond quickly and compassionately. When dealing with an upset customer on social media, time is of the essence. The longer you wait to address an issue, the angrier and more vocal the customer will get. Respond with warmth and empathy. Make sure you clearly understand the problem and offer to provide a solution regardless of who is to blame. Sometimes that can be tough if you think that the customer maybe isn't representing things accurately, but always remember you're being watched. 3, be honest and transparent. You don't have to solve every problem immediately, but you do need to be upfront and honest about how long it will take to resolve the issue. Whether you need to consult your internal team or wait for a part to be delivered, honesty is always the best policy when customers are involved. 4, offer a real apology or don't apologize at all. Let me ask you, what would you rather hear? We're sorry that you feel that way, or that was unacceptable, we're sorry for the inconvenience, and we'll rectify the situation. Just take responsibility for the situation and do what it takes to solve the problem, and then thank them for the opportunity to show them how important their business is to you. 5, know when to take it one-on-one. While some interactions can be handled quickly over social media, others will require more attention to address properly. When that happens, it's best to create a direct conversation over direct message or email or even over the phone. As many as 4 out of 5 customers prefer to use live chat for customer service because the communication resolution happens in real time. So whenever you can, take it to DM rather than keeping it in the social space. 6, Know when to respond and when to keep quiet. Not all negative comments are created equal. Like it or not, there are critics and internet trolls out there who just want to provoke a response out of you. Usually their criticisms or complaints are completely baseless, and they post them just to set a trap. Engaging with trolls or responding to their comments almost always does more harm than good. As hard as it can be, sometimes the best response is no response. And 7, track your results. If you're going to invest the time and resources to provide good customer service on social media, then it's worth keeping track of the conversations, topics, and sentiments as a way to follow trends, identify blind spots or weaknesses, measure your progress, and communicate what you're doing with your team. A great way to quantify the customer service experience is through satisfaction surveys and email remarketing tools like SurveyMonkey and MailChimp. Customer relationship management or CRM platforms like HubSpot allow you to target customers after they've made a purchase and can also drive positive reviews on social and retail sites. Regardless of the tool, there are many ways to turn your online customer interactions into actionable data. For even more tips and data on social media customer service, check out the full CAM 101 story on our blog or by clicking the link below. There's a lot of info we didn't have time to get to here that I think you'll enjoy. Next up, we have an in-depth story this week on the current state of the luxury market. Even though travel and hospitality have been severely affected by the pandemic, this market has proven to be quite resilient over the last 3 decades with robust growth worldwide. Except for a small dip in 2003 and a decline during the recession in 2008, the global luxury goods market grew steadily from 1996 all the way through 2019. Over a 24-year period, sales of personal luxury goods quadrupled from $83 billion to $308 billion annually. So with that in mind, we decided to take a look at what changes are taking place in the luxury market to adapt to current conditions and how those brands can prepare for the future. Because luxury purchases are, by definition, discretionary, spending on high-end goods were especially susceptible to declining sales during the pandemic. When the Global Web Index surveyed internet users in mid-April, it found an average of 25% pullback in spending worldwide, with South Africa dropping the most at 39% and the US dropping the least at 13%. Delayed luxury spending in China, a 31% drop, was of particular concern because China single-handedly accounted for 90% of the growth in the luxury market last year. However, as we report this in early July, things are actually looking a lot brighter. A new study from researchandmarket.com takes the pandemic into account and expects the annual growth from 2020 through 2027 to come in at about 5.3%, which is still quite strong annually. So what does that mean? Well, we're already seeing how the luxury market is adapting and how it has historically relied on heavily attended in-person events, which obviously won't be as possible for the next few years. For example, Baselworld is a trade show that has been the epicenter of the watch and timepiece universe for years. This year's event was canceled, and shortly thereafter, several of the major players like Rolex and Patek announced they would not return next year in favor of their own smaller, more intimate events. A few months later, we've seen a preview of what that could look like. Rolex's sister brand, Tudor, just debuted a new model this week in its first virtual product rollout ever. The Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue is a new take on a very hot existing model, and the brand launched the product on July 1st with posts that appeared across all social platforms simultaneously. At the same time, brand ambassadors like David Beckham posted shots and videos themselves wearing the new model. Media outlets that had received the watch under embargo posted their stories reviewing it, and retailers announced they had the new model in stock, all at the same time on the same day. Rather than showing a watch at a trade show, then making consumers wait months or even years for it to show up in stores, the timing and execution of this launch was, with a focus on driving retail sales, was flawless. We think this is a good example of what luxury launches could look like in the future, and it was a nearly contactless experience. Next, we have an interesting bit of insight on the biggest brands in the world. For months, we've been shouting from the rooftops that companies need to sell direct to consumer if they want to be in control of their own destiny. But don't just take our word for it. A new report on the 75 most valuable global retail brands in the world makes it crystal clear. The top 2 most valuable global retail brands are both e-com companies, Amazon and the Chinese company Alibaba. Together, these 2 brands were worth more than $568 billion as of mid-June 2020. And you can see their size relative to the other fast-growing brands in this graphic from Visual Capitalist seen here. Here's a rundown on some of the numbers. Amazon grew by 32% last year. Costco grew by 35%, Walmart by 24%, and Target by 27%. Notice a pattern? They're all retailers. One of the only standalone product companies on this list, Lululemon, grew by 40%, but also has retail stores. In fact, out of the 75 global retail brands ranked, 28 of them are major players in e-commerce, and other brands on the list are making major investments in direct-to-consumer e-commerce right now. If you want to learn more about how to expand your brand's direct-to-consumer sales strategy, we have a full suite of great articles and how-to stories on our site, and also linked below. Now let's get to the news. Our top story today is that the June jobs report was better than expected, with the U.S. economy adding 4.8 million jobs and unemployment dropping to 11.1%. This was easily the largest single-month gain in history, following a similar surge in hiring in May. Economists are hoping that these are signs of recovery and that the COVID-created recession will result in sort of a V-shaped recovery that will be much more rapid than the long, drawn-out U-shaped recovery that followed the 08-09 crisis. On a related note, the stock market just had its best quarter since 1998. After the outbreak of COVID-19 in March brought an end to one of the longest bull markets ever, the stock market rebounded in Q2 to have its best quarter since 1998. The Dow surged 18% since the end of March, its best quarterly performance since the 80s, while the S&P jumped over 20% for its best quarter since 1998. Both indexes are still down for the year by over 10%, but I think these are all good signs that things are turning around. Also this week, it was announced that the Paycheck Protection Program that was set to end with $130 billion left in the kitty may actually get extended. Although that program did get off to a rocky start, over the past 3 months, the government has handed out $520 billion in forgivable loans to nearly 5 million small businesses in an effort to preserve jobs and keep these companies operating. The PPP was set to end on Tuesday, but just a few hours before the expiration date, the Senate approved a 5-week extension, which the House then passed without debate, which is a miracle in today's political climate. No word yet on if the president's going to sign the bill, but it's looking pretty good. With people around the world avoiding public transportation and searching for private modes of transportation that don't involve them being around other people, sales of bicycles, e-bikes, scooters, and motorcycles have also gotten a boost in recent months. But the desire for small, practical, affordable bikes means that Harley-Davidson's downward slide over the last year or two is unlikely to reverse itself because of the pandemic alone. Consumer demand for self-contained vehicles has helped some car makers and is the reason the RV market is absolutely booming, which we reported about in last week's newsletter. But the beneficiaries of these two-wheeled sales surges are most likely going to be the Japanese and European manufacturers who build small, easy-to-ride, economical bikes rather than the big, expensive Harleys that some of us know and love. Our final story for the week is for my gamer friends out there. Pandemic-related lockdowns have driven explosive growth in the video game market, including racing sims. Codemasters Group, which specializes in car racing games, owns F1, the successful Formula One racing championship game, and it just signed a 5-year deal with the FIA World Rally Championship. Last November, it also bought a competitor and added the Fast and Furious franchise to its stable. Some analysts believe Codemasters stock is undervalued and is poised for growth, particularly as traditional motorsports continue to try and find a path forward, and even real racing sanctioning bodies are leaning on sims. That's all we have this week, so have a safe holiday, stay positive, please like and share this video, and if you really enjoy it, smash that subscribe button, or check us out at conmedia.com. Thanks everybody, have a great week.